So how do you keep your communication resilience when you face the heavy jamming from your enemy?
Traditional wires.
Traditional wires.
Sure.
Okay.
This unbelievable. The wires, telephones, or wires LAN cables. LAN cables. How do you pronounce? You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So this like infinity. This is forever. This is traditional. Connecting just a simple telephone. Okay. Yes, really. Wow. It looks funny, but how it works.
Hello， 大家好，欢迎收看《一件军外套》，每周跟您军事外交 talk， 我是张胜维。今年的这个黑熊学院跟乌克兰自由民主联盟，他们共同举办了民防年会。那这次呢，也特别邀请了乌克兰的专家来到台湾跟我们分享。那今天在我旁边这一位是他们一位非常特别的专家，我就请他来跟我们分享他们的民防经验。Hello, Illia, welcome to Taiwan.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting.
It's our pleasure to have you here. Because we want to introduce you to our audience. Now, could you give us a brief background, a brief introduction about your background?
So, I'm serving in the Ukrainian military since 2017.
Okay.
It was already an anti-terroristic operation supported by Russia. Anti-terroristic operation of Ukraine against supported by Russia, separatists and Russian soldiers on Donbas. This is east part of Ukraine, which this all anti-terroristic operation started in 2014, but I was 16 years old and I couldn't, took part in it. Yeah, but in 2017 I joined our armed forces of Ukraine as a tank driver, so I was taking combat actions against the Russian separatists and Donbas region. After that, this is like due to Russian position, due to Russian policy, they think and they position all the soldiers, sergeants and officers who was taking part in combat actions on Donbas, they think that they are war crimes. Because, this complete unbelievable, because why, if you are defending your own country, another country who supports separatists in that region makes you against investigation against you? So that's why I've got an investigation in quasi statements called Lugansk and Donetsk republics, which was supported by Russia. And that's why I don't travel nowhere which is connected to Russia because of some security reasons, and then after 2 contracts in armed forces of Ukraine, I gone to Poland and Austria. I was living outside for a couple months, but it was, it was good time for a couple months, but full-scale invasion started, so that's why I took a decision to come back to Ukraine and take part in combat actions. So I took part in the battle for Kiev, and I was taking part a little bit in some combat operations on Donbas in the end of 2022. In Donetsk region, and then I started to be an instructor. I was servicing in radiation defense forces also. And then I changed my job title this year. Last year in 2025, I became an officer of armed forces of Ukraine.
Okay, and because this is your first time to Taiwan, I think you must bring a very important message to our Taiwanese people. So can you tell us what important message are you bringing and you want to share with our Taiwanese people?
So, I was choosing a country for vacation because I try to live as I can to take all the opportunities. And I have a friend, Maria Makarovich here. She was saying, maybe you will visit Taiwan. This is so interesting country. I said, why not? Why not? I was reading a lot of your history. I was reading a lot of situation which has happened here in these islands. And in this region, it was really interesting to me to see how the Taiwanese people are living here, how they act, what they eat, the culture, everything is so interesting to me. And even now I feel that I'll miss this place because, soon I need to come back because my vacation is finishes. And the most important message for Taiwanese people that you must have prepared for every types of threats you can have from everywhere. Doesn't matter what country is it. Don't really matter. You must be prepared. I cannot even say should. You must be prepared. And hopefully you don't need these preparations. Because in Ukraine, to be sure, we lost a lot of things, like, I'll say in this way, a lot of things because we didn't really prepare.
You mean before 2022 or
yes.
14?
Before 2022, because yes, we were reforming our army since 2014, but before 2022, when we had a lot of information from intelligence service that Russia planning invasion to Ukraine, we should do much more, but it didn't, unfortunately. So the only message for Taiwanese people that this doesn't matter from what country or from what region treats you have. It really doesn't matter. You just need to be prepared in total. Doesn't matter. In everything. Emergency medicine, civilian defense, for example, to know how to help your brother, relative, or friend, even if he got in a car accident, at least.
So according to your background and according to your expertise, could you tell us what if Taiwan were to face a blockade or the communication blackout? What is the most urgent infrastructure Taiwan should establish right now?
So we in Ukraine are facing unbelievable a lot of blackouts, especially during the winter period because of what. And in Taiwan situation, it's like you could have a risks to have a blackout in the summer because you have huge more power capacity of usage in the summer period because its temperature is higher, the conditioners is working more and more in every building, every room, everywhere. So first of all, this must be hospitals. Secondly, or even not secondly, we cannot say this firstly and secondly. This everything goes in one list.
Okay.
So this is hospitals, this is communication systems, all types, and police and firefighters especially. And we have in Ukraine the places, small rooms in local administrations or even tents installed outside with generators or power batteries to charge the phones, have some tea. In your case, in summer, cold water, for example. So these places must be saved. I mean, power saved in the first lane, and only then everything in other.
Okay. But how do you deal with the communication blackout? I know that we cannot do it without electricity, but what if everything just go black? Then how do you communicate with each other?
We almost figured out this question regarding the cell phone towers.
Okay.
We install generators or batteries which are getting powered by itself when electricity is able. So. Secondly, regarding communications, it's a lot of installed using an optic fiber in Ukraine. And the possibilities of optic fiber. If you give up electricity to optic fiber, so the network of it works. So it means you have to have huge batteries, for some, communicational centers and generators to power them more and up. Of course, solar panels to give it more. And due to the private people, in the private way, we also installing small batteries for our modems, which has a possibility to connect optic fiber. And it works like a whole network in Kyiv, in Chernihiv, and all types of regions in Ukraine. That's why the Ukraine was totally blacked, but with internet.
Oh,
yes.
Wow, it's amazing. Yes. Actually, because you are expertise in technology, and we also want to know that because in Ukraine, many coders, maybe they are civilians, the coders become a digital warrior. And what is your message to Taiwan tech community regarding that how their professional skills can serve as a powerful force in defending national sovereignty?
First of all, first message, I will be telling this message to everybody, to every type of professions. First of all, study emergency medicine. First of all, you must know this everywhere, on every level, on every profession. But secondly, if we tell directly about IT technologies, when it was Russian invasion started in Ukraine in 2022, it was a lot of DDoS attacks. on Russian servers and Russian websites and web services, but it was making, like psychological pressure, but not capacity pressure really. And for real, it's better to hire in defense structures, for example, and to implement their knowledges in unmanned systems of all types, communications, electronic warfare system, which is really, really important in every army in the world, because they are developing all the time, an unbelievable amount of time. And you know that electronic warfare systems, this is infinity type of development. This is like a closed circle. You're all the time updating it, because the enemies, like Russia in Ukraine, they updating their own electronic warfare system. We updating our electronic warfare systems or frequencies we use, now to pass this. Then they know our frequencies again, and they change their settings in electronic warfare systems. This is a closed circle, infinity process, and all of these types, especially in cyber defense, because closed information for everybody. Even in private companies, how it's so important. How it's so important. So, giving the skills to your country, to your place of birth, this is a normal. So, you should offer this to any type of defense structures, for example. But what's interesting, that in Ukraine is a lot of things which was developed and created by social society in private way. That means that, for example, Delta situational awareness system, it was created by private company. This was created by private guys, but implemented by the Ukrainian government a little bit later. It's like Palantir, of course you know Palantir, but this is Ukrainian version, and I feel it better because I was using a Delta system and it was nice. The same as the Delta is a strategical operational awareness system. We have tactical operational awareness system which called Kropeva. This is like for every soldier, like let's say in this way. So they would know all the types of information in the combat field, setting in scenarios which could happen for artillery, mortar, FPV drones, commands and squads, and everybody. And who must develop this? IT specialists. Only that. Something like this. Again, all new developments in securing, again, information channels. It's also should be, or even as our military institute of telecommunication information technologies prepare specialists for cyber defense also to defend itself, defend channels of communication, or even organizing the channels of communication, especially now, especially when it's optic fiber, when it's Starlinks, when it's lack of own satellite systems in a lot of armies in the world. You saw personally what happened when the Starlink was closed to Russian forces. It was a mess.
Okay.
If they would have the much better own IT specialists in, for example, military communication, they wouldn't have such problems like that. That's what I mean.
Okay. So, is it easy to turn, the coders into, digital warriors? I mean, do they have to be like a military guy or something?
Yes. In Ukraine, I'm not gonna tell some teams because to be honest, I just don't know their names actually and real, but we have teams in Ukraine who help in Ukrainian armed forces of getting information somewhere from inside of Russia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, of course, these guys have leaders. Of course, these guys has people who motivate them. Of course, somebody maybe pays money for them, but in more than, I think, this is due to my personal opinion, more than 60% of these guys, they are doing by themselves because they want to help. They have any salaries from their companies where they hired and work with, but they are doing this because of just desire to help its own country, own
for
place.
Justice. For justice.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. That's how people can turn their ID specialists into warriors. Say like this. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So how do you keep your communication resilience when you face the heavy jamming from your enemy?
Traditional wires.
Traditional wires.
Sure.
Okay.
This unbelievable. The wires, telephones, or wires LAN cables. LAN cables is how do you pronounce? You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So this like infinity. This is forever. This is traditional. Of course, if we operated somewhere on the combat field and got a signal jamming, we won't do nothing. We won't do nothing. We cannot do this because we already faced the signal jamming.
Yeah.
We cannot do that. So, but if you know that in this location or this sector of your combat actions or combat operations, the signal jamming is so often, or it's planned to use the signal jamming, of course you will prepare your position with the wires, connecting just simple telephone. Yes, really.
Wow.
It looks funny, but how it works, because this is only one possibility to take care about this signal jamming, because all the time it's suddenly. Clots doesn't work nothing.
Got it. And because it seems like, according to your speech, it seems like it is very fast-paced in the wartime. So, how to shorten the time of the decision-making process?
So first of all, this is implementing systems like Delta. First of all, but Delta, you can even Google it. It inserts Kropeva system, Veja system, element, closed messenger. So this is like ecosystem and an organism which is connected with each other, which making analysis of all types of operations you do, and it gives you a possibility as a commander to take really fast and nice decisions with lower time, due to the making lower time the decision making process, because you see everything on the map. You see the picture from your intelligence drones, like, sorry for that, but like Mavics or something like this, when the commander sees the pictures of his units on the picture on his computer under the ground, again he sees the spots of targets which are installed on this map by soldiers and surgeons through this tactical combat system. He can faster take decision. This is commander, for example, commander of COI or company, let's say like this, or even commander of squad, or especially commanders of battalions like this. They could have a really nice decision-making process and make it lower. So the answer is really simple. This is really effective and exact information which got into this system, and centralized on one, like say, monitor in front of the commander's face. But the human takes a decision. That's what I mean.
And can I follow up this question?
Yeah.
Because take the drone, for example, that we are learning a lot from the Ukrainian experience. So our military actually is purchasing a lot of drones to our troops. But for now, that the number is not really matters, right? Because the experience that really matters. So how do you tell what your advice is to our people that shorten the decision-making process?
Due to Ukrainian experience, which we have in Ukraine and the armed forces of Ukraine, we are, as again I told you, first of all, this is operational awareness system as we talked, and the operational doctrine. We have a doctrine of usage of unmanned systems, where is explained everything, restrictions, cautions, rules, everything you want, everything you don't want to do, or everything you should do with that drones, with that types of drones, with that types of drones, you know. So it makes your real normal capacity of their usage, so you don't spend nothing for zero capacity, you know. You don't spend, for example, I don't know, 15-inch intelligence drones to hit the target, because it has a camera for €2,000 and a battery, and you used it against, I don't know, motorcycle or horse. Yeah, sometimes we got attacked by Russians on the horses. Yeah, it's complete crazy, but it's happened. And yeah, and of course, or even simpler, for example, in doctrine it's written that you cannot use an intelligence drones against, I don't know, some type of light armored vehicles. Use another, because this you need to connect to Delta to show the picture to the commander. You know. All this notices, as I say, must be written as a rule, for it's a say in Ukraine, and then it's gonna be trained in separated training centers with different commanders of these training centers who knows good about electronic warfare systems, about drones communication, about unmanned system production, of course, unmanned system services, because in Ukraine, as I say, we have separated training centers for this, even for civilians. And this like symbiotic connection of these, let's say, types of your or anybody's actions could have a success with using of unmanned systems.
How do you define victory for Ukraine?
That's philosophical question, to be honestly. You know, in these conditions, which are now on the land, in the Ukrainian policy, economics, foreign affairs, everything which is happening in the world, I should say that only unity of our nation could help us on this moment. Because if we start to separate each other due to religion issues, political, different minds, especially language also. We have some language issues which is supported by Russian propaganda in Ukraine. If we be separated by all these topics, it's gonna be a mess and we will finish really bad. So the only unity could help us in this moment, because we have a really unbelievable perspectives, possibilities, opportunities inside in Ukraine. The capacity of Ukrainian nation is unbelievable. We did a lot in the start of the war. Almost, I say differently, almost nobody was prepared for that. Only a couple military brigades were holding up some key when I was also taking part in it. And on that period, the unity helped us. Unity. Everyone understood we need to forget everything, our different topics and meanings and minds and mindset. Let's take a hold against one enemy, against Russian Federation, because they pure hate us, they want to destroy us and have a full occupation. That's it. It was for 100 years. It was 100 years ago when Ukrainian People's Republic was occupied by Soviet Union. It was 200 years ago, 300, when we was occupied by Russian Empire. And it was again hundreds years ago when it was Kiev and Rus also occupied by a new government called Moscovia. It happens for 100 years. So only now we have a chance to hold this front and take a win only by unity.
Thank you so much for accepting our interview. I wish to meet you in Kiev, and actually I really wish to discuss more with you in the future. 那今天非常谢谢伊利亚帮我们带来这么多精彩的讯息，包括了无人机，包括他们在战场上的这种这个战场的管理。那其实我们有很多需要向乌克兰学习的地方。很多人说乌克兰战争已经打了4年，我们还要向他们学习什么？但是在战场它的迭代速度是非常快的，我们必须要跟上脚步，不断向他们学习，然后才让我们自己在国防、在民防上面能够有更好的支撑。那以上就是这集的一件军外套，希望大家都喜欢，也对大家都有帮助。如果有任何疑问的话，欢迎在我们节目下方留言来告诉我们的想法，也记得帮我们订阅、按赞加分享。我们就下集再见喽，拜拜。